Oh, well, hello there. And as I get this started, I'm actually gonna fix something on my camera. So hold on a second. All right. Sorry about that delay. And I hate that because I always want things to smoothly within you. So we're gonna have trans medicalism, and we're gonna hope that my internet survives. It's here, and I need to figure out how to get a better connection. I might have to change rooms, but we'll see how that goes in the future. So yeah, we're gonna talk about gender stuff. I have a lot of thoughts today. Um, yeah, so I think a lot of my thoughts are triggered because um, another one of our trans friends made a video about me, and it was really great and very encouraging for me. No, I'm joking. It sucked and wasn't really nice. And I had a lot of thoughts about just kind of like what it means to stand up for trans people overall, like what it actually looks like to hold harmful ideology, um, and what the impact of that is on like real people's lives. This isn't some Well, it is. It is people just kind of coming on like bullshitting on the internet, which is fine. You can definitely do that. But at the same time, like on the other end of that stuff and that teasing is like real people who have real feelings. And I don't know, it's important for us to have this type of conversation to help us understand and identify like what it really means to stand up for trans rights, and kind of the dangers of of gender critical ideology and stuff like that. So yeah, I hope to have a lot of, if you guys have any thoughts, share them with me and we'll talk about it. The other thing is I'm watching some dogs, and if there might be some type of thing that I might need to like run and make sure that they're okay, because my wife is out. As you guys know, she's, volunteering. So we'll see. Hopefully that's everything goes fine. I don't really have to do much of anything. So I have a couple of thoughts that I just want to read just initially, and then we'll kind of jump in. So what does it actually mean to stand up for trans rights? It shouldn't be that hard of a question. But in this political climate, it's tough to see through all the smoke and mirrors. We now have trans people seemingly joining the fight against trans people, and their defense being, "Oh, well, don't worry, I'm just against the trans people that don't make sense, like the they thems or like the transtrenders. And I'm just trying to bring some sense to all of this nonsense so that the whole world can at least take some of us trans people seriously." And I have a lot of compassion for this perspective because it's alluring for sure, but it doesn't help our cause. At the end of the day, gender critical ideology is dangerous for trans people. Its logical end is always going to be barring access to care. Those gender critical uh, those gender critical trans folks are catering to those who actually don't support our right to exist at all. These people might not think that's what's happening, but I just don't understand. I just don't get how you can't see that like that type of rhetoric, can be harmful. But let's look into it, and let's take a look at what gender critical people believe. And then we're going to talk about maybe some of this stuff can be useful. Also, we'll talk about some of the different levels of gender criticalness and kind of some of the logical conclusion. I'll also kind of review a little bit of that video that Marcus made about me. And yeah, we'll talking about a lot of different things. Okay, so I hope, like I said, I hope that my internet stays decent during this time. All right, so let's start with the definition of gender critical. This was like such the quickest like video I could find on it. So we'll start there. Okay.
What are gender critical beliefs? We say a woman is an adult human female and a man is an adult human male. There are no other meaningful, coherent, non-circular and truthful definitions of the words woman and man. A female human.
Obviously, I would disagree with that. Let me know if you guys can hear that. Basically, the idea that a woman is an adult human female and a man is an adult human male. I think these categories are useful for some reasons, like medical things and maybe like ease of categorization and things like that. But gender is much more. Sex is even really complicated. I forget how many ways there. Yeah, there are a lot. I don't want to like speak on things that I don't really understand fully. But I do understand that sex is complicated, and sometimes things don't have a neat definition. Just because we don't understand something fully doesn't mean we get to say this is definitely what it is, and there's no chance that it can be anything different. Um, like I agree that the majority of women are probably adult human females, but that I guess it's not an inclusive. Like it doesn't include everybody, and these people aren't really interested in inclusion. That's for sure.
Human is one whose developmental pathway is towards the production of ova, while for a human male it is towards the production of sperm. Sometimes people are born with disorders of the reproductive tract and they are infertile, but they are still either male or female. In the interest.
That's kind of the discussion about intersex people when people will say things like, oh, basically that intersex people represent kind of like the sex version of there being kind of like a blend or a spectrum of sexes. Therefore saying that like, okay, then maybe gender is the same way. But they would just kind of say like, intersex people are either male or female. They just have like certain kind of differences or something like that. Or you might have some type of chromosomal changes or something like that that don't mean that you produce, like maybe the average male or something like that. I guess it feels annoying to reduce a person's body down to their ability to reproduce. But I know like sex is obviously about like reproduction. Like, I mean, the kind of differentiation between bodies, not necessarily the act itself. I mean, well, yeah, whatever. You know what I'm saying? This kind of reminds me of people who just kind of, well, yeah, say like sex is only for the marriage, or well, not just only for. Well, that is something that they say, but I mean like only for procreation, and that's kind of its main function, and that shouldn't be tampered with. It was designed for this reason, so let's keep it this way. Kind of the same thing with gender. Gender is supposed to be this way. This is how it was meant to be. We can't change it, otherwise we're, going against logical reasoning. This type of stuff makes us seem like we're insane, like we're the crazy ones for being like, oh, maybe it's actually not that easy to just say that this is exactly what a man is, this is exactly what a woman is. Yeah.
Of women's privacy, dignity, comfort, and safety, certain spaces are and should remain for women and girls only. This isn't to say that.
So this is another common argument. Like as soon as we talk about the trans conversation, it somehow leans over to like trans women are dangerous, basically. A lot of times in like these types of gender critical spaces, basically you're taught to fear the idea of the trans woman, like the non-passing trans woman who, like doesn't look like your typical average woman or something like that. And their presence in a bathroom, making everybody uncomfortable. And that disgust is used to help fuel, I don't know, support for this idea. No, there's not a lot of people who are going to say, I mean, when it's put like this, you sound like the bad guy when you're like, we should let, you know what I'm saying? Like people should be able to choose what bathrooms they're in. But when you're like, oh, there's danger for little girls and women, then people are like, oh man, it kind of it like speaks to people's sensitivity and their disgust when you talk about, a big hairy woman. I don't think she said that in this video, but it is something that is said in these circles.
That those things aren't important to men too, but it is to recognize that the vast majority of crimes of a sexual nature in public areas and public spaces are not committed by women, are they? For the same reasons, certain.
Yeah, I think that is an accurate thing. I would research it, but I don't really feel like it. I think that's an accurate statement. I guess that also doesn't still mean that like trans women are still going to be, you know, violent offenders. I'm not even sure if you want to put them in the same category or anything like that. But just saying that like this group of people like are the most violent, therefore women need to be protected or something like that. Like, I don't know if the logic pans out entirely. It just doesn't seem to work. Doesn't seem to work fully for me. Yeah, let me just listen to that part one again. Oh yeah, just like wanting to keep public spaces safe. Like most often you're dealing with a person who's going to go to the bathroom to do their business and leave and not harass people. If people want to harass people, they're going to do that. And they don't have to do the trans thing in order to harass people in the bathroom even. Like it just stinks. This stuff, she's talking about not having circular arguments, but I think some of her arguments don't fully pan out either.
Not committed by women, are they? For the same reasons, certain jobs, like counselling the female survivors of sexual assaults, should be only for women.
Look at that, exactly, by Charlie saying, by that argument, they should be protecting trans folks since they are much more likely to be assaulted. Exactly. If we're talking about who is the most at risk for violence, we're talking trans people. That's pretty much it.
And for reasons of safety and fairness, most sports should be single sex. In other words,
there was the other kind of the trans sports situation. I think that there is, you know, valid this is an important issue to talk about. Maybe it shouldn't be politicized. I heard someone else say that, you know, this topic should be reserved for like exercise sciences and things like that. And maybe like obviously like trans people, that's probably also an important person to include in this conversation, not necessarily like politicians and news anchors and stuff like that. Their opinions are just opinions. We should look into research, things that we can act like. So yeah, we should not be going off of feelings. I feel that this person is going to win against the other women, or I feel like, you know what I'm saying? We need evidence. That way we can actually make good decisions. And that way governments aren't making decisions based on their feelings and their fears. They're making decisions based off of what works for human beings.
People's claimed gender identity is not more important than the reality of their biological sex in determining what they are. And that, in a nutshell, is what gender critics believe.
Great. So, and that's pretty much it. That's the end of the video, or the end of at least like this part of what she says. So, like, she's saying that like people's gender identity shouldn't be more important than I guess like other people's safety. And I don't know, it doesn't seem like a comparison that really works overall, because we're not talking, because the conversation about trans rights issues isn't even about women's safety. We're not talking about that. We're talking about whether like how to help trans people exist and not want to, you know, unalive themselves. How to help trans people, like, you know, access things like name changes and other things that are actually important for us, rather than just, I don't know, like talking about things that don't really matter. But you know, what do I know? And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is is there any way that gender critical ideas can be useful? I wanted to share, I guess, one other YouTube channel that I've watched before, and I didn't have a video particularly of theirs that I wanted to look at. I just think that they have interesting ideas. So I'll just show you. Okay, so their name is, oh, I think his name, yeah, I think he uses he, him pronouns. His name is Godless Snowshoe, or his channel. And I'm trying to make this a little bit, it looks so small on this thing, so I'm trying to make it look, sorry about that. Okay, so like they make videos about a lot of different things, but I wanted to just show you a couple of their, okay, so like they make a video about like transmedicalism and gatekeeping, like they talk about trans discourse, different things like that. So let's say an inclusionist trans person is like, I just think that it's important to define terms. So like an inclusionist trans person is someone who says kind of like, maybe you don't need dysphoria. You don't necessarily need dysphoria to be trans. Maybe like more expansive definitions of the word trans, not necessarily only making it some type of a mental illness type of a situation. I think, and also there are different types of like gender critical and trans medical things. And I don't necessarily want to conflate these things entirely because there do seem to be some differences. But where they have connections, I think that it's, where they have overlapping connections, it's important to talk about. Like, I appreciate a lot of their videos because they're anti-theist. I'm pretty, I don't know how much I've talked about my spirituality here. I don't know. I've been leaning towards like anti-theist ideas. I'm not sure what I'll claim in terms of my actual beliefs, but I appreciate a lot of their content. And so they have a lot of opinions, things like autism, like they believe that autism doesn't impact your gender. A lot of people believe other things. Like maybe in another video, when we're going to talk about trans medicalism specifically, we can watch like this video or something like that. But yeah, so what I think might be, like I'm saying, the point of me bringing them up is talking about what may be helpful. I think that, for example, for non-dysphoric trans people to kind of like, I saw someone else post something like this and I thought it was useful, but like for non-dysphoric trans people to center themselves in a discussion where like one of the primary situations is like helping people get access to like care, trans related healthcare. And if you don't need access to healthcare, you can just be a supportive person and kind of helping other people. So my opinion is like, it is more important that we get healthcare than it is that like, I don't know, even my pronouns are used correctly. Like, I don't know if that's bad to say, but I care more about people being able to access care than like, for example, like any type of rule to kind of like not allow people to like, I don't know, say mean things about people say mean things about trans people. People are allowed to have other opinions. It just is kind of annoying. Yeah, it seems to be a weak biological deterministic argument that doesn't take into account the complexity of science. That's just the truth. The only thing is like we're asking people to just like take the science seriously. And the Godless Snowshoe does have they do bring a lot of like science into their perspective, into his perspective. I'm sorry, I keep misgendering him. They bring a lot of science he brings a lot of science to his perspective. And I think that's helpful in a lot of ways. And can be, honestly, I think that a lot of trans medicalist ideas can be affirming. Because I think like when it feels like, maybe like if your gender identity is connected to your biology, maybe it makes it feel more real or something like that. And I think I can understand why someone would want to kind of adopt those ideas. But also at the same time, I don't want to necessarily say a lot of things when I haven't really entirely reviewed all of the science. I'm not going to claim that I have. I'm just kind of talking about what I actually do know. And there are also some people who I would consider moderates in this community. I don't know community, people with this idea. All right. So I found kind of a person who you might consider being like a very trans medicalist light or gender critical light. There are some echoes of the whole trans medical idea, but also this one particular guy who I'm going to be talking about, or kind of just watching like some of his video and like just talking about some of his opinions. I agree with some of them. And I think that maybe he might be onto something, but at the same time, I'm not sure if I agree with everything. But let's go over this together. Okay, it's a 40s for 40 seconds. And go from there. This is another trans talking about some of his experiences and thoughts. And I just, yeah, I think that it's important to hear from other trans people when we talk about these things as well. Okay.
Of the video that I officially,
Title,
necessarily as a part of the trans community, because it's set well with many of you as a community. Because it's usually a hard hit when someone comes out and says, "Oh, I'm detransitioning," because times when these stories come out, the people who stand against the community will, in fact, weaponize these stories.
This attitude in the trans community that if you question your transition, that makes you insane.
And say, "Oh yeah, you see that guy right there? Yeah, he didn't like it, so he's out of there, and so are you." So it's like, yeah, it's understandable. But at the same time, even with the detransitioners that come out, they end up being completely ostracized by the community as a result of that weaponization.
It is difficult when you realize that you need to detransition for a variety of strong reasons, and then the community you are part of rejects you.
The detransitioner will use their story against the trans community. So it's just a big mess when it pertains to detransitioning. However, my detransition is not.
Okay, I agree with him totally. I think that the detransition conversation is really weird and like unhealthy the way that it's happening right now. I think there are some people who are talking about it in a way that I think is really great and respectable. I think that there are other people who had like really used this to just, I don't know, really weaponize things, like really weaponize it against the trans community as a whole, and that is really upsetting. I really hate it so much. Makes me feel sad, like really sad. Kind of like the whole thing. If it didn't work for you, that's okay. Like, don't make it crappy for the rest of us, type of a thing.
The you are, because I'm saying trans, okay? I'm saying trans, okay? So surprise, okay. Yeah, I'm still going to be identifying as a trans man.
You are transgender.
However, I would much rather say that I.
Also, by the way, if you have not watched that one interview where the guy's like, "Why are you gay?" Like the guy from, I think it's the Ugandan pastor. It's such a funny video. It's kind of like a funny and like a very offensive way. Like it's very offensive to like trans being gay people, but like it was humorous to watch. So that's for free.
The transitioning from the social conditioning of the trans community. What does it mean? I'm part of you.
That's a good question. One of my thoughts is kind of like, if you're going to detransition, I don't know. Obviously, I definitely agree with clickbait. I think clickbait is fine. He definitely did this for clickbait. But yeah, talking about like leaving the trans community, I guess I don't necessarily understand that entirely. Like, I don't know. Does that mean like, I think maybe leaving the community might mean leaving the spaces in the community, perhaps leaving the trans community, like I guess changing some of your ideas, but we'll hear from him what that means.
Simply means I am completely associated in the establishment. But as far as my identity and what I represent, I will always be, unless I do a different conclusion with my life. But for the most part, that's just kind of where I stand with it. And I mean, it was simply my views, a lot of my values, a lot of my morals just does not remotely align with the trans community. And if you at all think differently from what is popularly believed in the community, then you are therefore ostracized. You are therefore pushed aside.
So I think this is another problem that I want to talk about that he brings up, which is great. It's not really that healthy to just push people away because they have different beliefs and values than you do. It's really important to like stand with people and yeah, it's important to stand with people even when they're struggling. I've heard it from several people, even people who are trans and they have questions, and sometimes people will jump down their throat because they're just like curious about things. And other times you have people who are actually like detransitioning and they get pushed out and there's really nothing for them to do. And a lot of times, like for example, I know that a lot of detransitioned like women who like female to male to female, they like resonate with trans femmes and trans females. And I do too in some ways, where with like facial hair and having a complicated relationship with it. Like when I've talked about that before. I don't need to review that again. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Let's see what else he has to say.
And told that you are a grifter, that you are appealing to your oppressor, and that you are.
So yeah, all the other time is if someone does have a different belief, we oftentimes will like make a lot of assumptions and opinions about them. I'm not saying that like I don't do this. I probably do this a lot actually. Make judgments about people, and yeah, that's a human thing to do. I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna stop doing that because I'm a person and we make mistakes. But yeah, so kind of is kind of like a pick me if you're saying like you're like okay, these are my other beliefs, and I'm not sure exactly. Oh, I think I do know what he's starting to say, but he'll get into that in a second.
Or a turf and so many things. I mean, I've been accused of the whole full, the whole book. Anything that anyone can be accused of, I was accused of. I'm giving into white supremacy, like shit like that. And I've recognized rather quickly that I just don't want to have anything to do with it. Of course, I will at its core, I will fight for trans rights. I will fight for our rights to be here, exist, and to thrive as human beings. I'm just not going to be doing it next to y'all, next to that group of individuals who just can't seem to tolerate difference in thought,
So when he said this, I like, as soon as he said that, I was like, I have to talk about this because what does it mean to say like, I'm gonna stand for trans rights, but the majority of, I guess the visible majority of trans people on the internet, I'm just gonna like poo-poo them as well. And like, hopefully trans rights will get better because of that. I don't think that that's a good plan. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't see how that can be beneficial. Because the more we say like, oh, that trans person, that's the kind of trans person that's not real, that's not respectable. We start deciding like who's in and who's out. And once we start doing that, we start to blur the lines a lot, and we can start becoming verbally aggressive and violent towards other people and unkind to them because we're frustrated and we just don't agree with their beliefs. I don't think that it's healthy to do a lot of infighting. I think that it's distracting. I think the real things that we're fighting for aren't always going to be changed by being on TikTok and talking about things like that. Sometimes we need to actually get up and talk to people in the real world and make changes in the real world for things that we want to see different. And I would agree that there are people in the trans community who maybe have like lost sight of what our goals are. But I don't know if that means like abandoning the community. And I'm not hating this person particularly. Like I said, I agree with a lot of what he says and he brings up interesting ideas. But I also disagree with some things.
There's this idea that if you think remotely different from the trans community, then you are imposing violence against your own people. And it's like, no, I just don't agree with you. And it's really that simple. But
oh, and then he said, I stand with the trans community, but not that part. And he says, I support trans rights and stuff. But my opinion is that he contradicts himself. But
this language that's being developed in the trans community will therefore, in fact, do the very thing that they are afraid of happening to them, which is the idea of dehumanization. You are dehumanizing, I can say. You are dehumanizing the people who simply have different beliefs than you. Just the fact that I say that a woman is an adult human female and a man is an adult human male, that is blasphemous, the blasphemy.
So now do you understand the connection? So we just got done watching the video from that other woman, the gender critical person, very like TERF type of person, saying that she's standing up for women's rights by kind of being against, just gonna close my window. She's saying she's like being against, like standing up for trans rights, even though clearly standing up for trans rights means standing up for all trans people, not just a select few that you agree with. That's the thing. You don't get to pick and choose which ones get to be free. It's either, really, I think at the end of the day, it's kind of either all of us or none of us. That's the kind of the situation I think that we're dealing with. Because if we start to move in the direction of a theocracy in our country, we're not going to be able to continue to do what we're doing, by the way. So that's a problem for sure. And also, like, no, there are a couple of transgender folks or even transsexual folks who feel like, well, because I've done these certain surgeries, my chromosomes have changed, and therefore I am a biological male. Like that, obviously, like isn't if I were to do that, I'm on testosterone, therefore I'm a biological male. I can't. That's not the truth. But you know, it's important to say, like, he knows that he's a man. Like, he knows that he's, and he later in the video, he kind of specifies that he's a trans man and that trans part is important. And yeah, that's definitely true. But like, what functionally, like, you are a man in society. It's just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it feels a little bit self-invalidating, because it's just true that you're a man functioning in society. Yeah, your genitals might tell a different story, or your chromosomes or your, you know, things like that might tell a different story, but that doesn't have to do with like your lived experience.
I mean, like, that's literally what it is. If you remotely utter such words in the community, if I go into a room full of trans people, I would probably be burned at the stake because of that very statement. That is in fact true.
And I think that's because, and I think that the language here is frustrating, because, like, I agree, the majority of women are adult human females. The majority of men, you know, are the opposite or whatever. But it's not a definition that's accurate. I think. Yeah, I don't think it's inaccurate. It's a fully encompassing term. A word is allowed to have multiple definitions, and the words are allowed to be complicated. So, yeah, that's why people get upset. People get upset is because the reason why people get upset is because when you say the whole adult human female thing, it sounds like a gender critical dog whistle. That's what it sounds like. Maybe that's not how you think that it's coming off as, but that's what we hear. That's what I hear. So I hope that I'm wrong, you know. And that's the thing, is like, people can have and hold gender critical beliefs and feel content with themselves, and like, it doesn't cause them any problems. They feel secure in themselves, and like, that's fine, I guess, but kind of frustrating. I think he has like one other point that I wanted to get across, and let me
But
just,
somehow it is deemed blasphemous in the community. And it's the fact that people within the community can't seem to believe that two things can be true at the same time. And I find it quite laughable.
So like, that's the thing. I think that if we were to have a conversation, we would probably agree, like, functionally, we would agree about how, like, a trans woman is functionally a woman in society. You know what I'm saying? In the grand scheme of things, you know, if you see like, you know, a quote unquote passing trans woman down the street, that's just where your mind is going to go. I don't think that it's that ridiculous to kind of say, to not, yeah, maybe it's a little bit ridiculous for us to be so like semantic about words and language, and like being like, oh, you shouldn't say this or say that, because I don't really think that's useful. And that's the thing, is I'm not really even sure what my goal is here. I don't know what the goal is. Like, I'm asking questions. I'm curious, and I just want to know why people think the way that they do. Let me try to think if
that we cannot say that a woman is an adult human instead of this useless imposition, because a lot of trans community is not realizing is that we're that's not what we're fighting for. You know, this is this is kind of like what happened with the BLM movement, and when all the companies out there started like changing the word, like the terminology of certain things, like master bedroom is no longer master bedroom, now it's like primary room or something like that. Like, do you not realize that does nothing towards the movement itself? It does nothing towards actually growing community and people having their rights, or, you know, changing master bedroom to primary room is not going to change the fact that Black people are getting murdered in the middle of the street.
Yeah, exactly. So for example, I'm trying to think of a helpful exact, what's that called, term, or like useful swap or something like that. I try to avoid using race examples with gender, because I think it triggers things for people. They're helpful because they're both kind of innate things that you can't necessarily the language is difficult, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like things that you can't necessarily change, you know, but people's gender dysphoria does shift, you know, but that's thing. Gender dysphoria can shift, but oftentimes the person's gender, I don't even know. I'm not even sure. Oh, man. See, and that's the thing, guys. This stuff is allowed to be complicated. This stuff is allowed to be confusing. And just because we struggle to understand it doesn't mean we get to say, well, because it's confusing, then let's go with the simplest answer. And that's just the only thing that's true. Sometimes the truth is complex, and it
You don't think that's what's gonna
and it can become more interesting, or sorry, it can become more easy to understand as time goes on.
change it? It's the same thing. It's not gonna change anything. At the end of the day, it's not all right.
Oh, I forgot. There was one part where he talked about he doesn't agree with the word cis being used. He doesn't think that it's a useful term or something like that, and that we're imposing these words onto other people. I think this is the last of his points that I really want to talk about and review. Crap, that's not what I was trying to do. Well, yeah. So like, I just think that like, nobody is really no trans person is walking down the street and is like, you must call yourself cis or refer to yourself as a cis person. The majority of cis people in this world, like maybe they might come in contact with a trans person a couple of times, but I'm sure that a small, if there's 1% of the world is trans, like there's a very small percentage of people who are going to know people and love people who are and have a relationship with people who are trans. And if that's not you, whatever, use whatever language to describe yourself, and don't call yourself cis. Great. You can literally, like, there are people who can literally live their entire lives without learning any of this gender or sexuality related terminology because it just doesn't apply to them. Some of this stuff I feel like is private, not the word cis, but I think like some of the more expansive gender labels are really important for like the internal community, but when like the rest of like the world sees it, that it doesn't make sense to them because they're just not a part of the queer they're not a part of the queer community as a whole. All right, so okay, what he's saying. So JJ is saying that I believe that we let the powers that be get away with way too much. Being Arab American and non-binary from Florida has gone through the Patriot Act, and it continues to harm our community. Yeah, I get stared at for being Arab and now I get stares for being queer. It's like, how do we allow society to get away with making our lives seem shameful? I don't do the whole appeasement thing. Right. Yeah, because if you're going to go around, and I'm not saying that trans person was doing any of this, like, I don't have any, whatever. I don't really care. And I think that it's very clear that I'm not down for like harassment of other people's channels that I talk about here. And I'm pretty sure no one on my channel is interested in that. I hope at least not. So, yeah, the world needs to get it together, in my opinion, not us to change for them. Not that you said that. I agree. So I definitely agree. A lot of people are saying, and that other guy, the trans guy, he talked a lot about, we don't want to impose things onto society. We don't want to be, we don't want to like be, like forcing this thing onto other people. And I don't think that we're doing that. Oftentimes we're just like asking for like decency and respect and talking about like what it looks like to respect us if you're interested. Like a lot of the libs of TikTok stuff is just like being like, here is how you use neopronouns if you're interested in using them. And then people who are like, they don't understand it. They're like, haha, you're ridiculous and stupid. And I'm like, okay, but like, that's not for you then. Like that doesn't like, you don't need that then. Let the other people just do what they want to do. I gotta tell you all, I was really close to I don't know, to leaning more towards the gender critical side. But as I did more of the research and like kind of dug deep into it and just listened to other people's opinions, I realized like I would be, kind of leaning into the respectability politics side of things. I don't necessarily, and the thing is, I don't necessarily want this only to be a political issue. I think that there is also like, there should be scientific conversations about the trans brain. Like these are important things to talk about, and we should, share these things with other people. And the thing about like, so for example, that other person, the Godless Snowshoe YouTube channel that I talked about, I believe their opinion is like, you need dysphoria to be trans, but dysphoria, like it doesn't have to be like wicked crazy dysphoria. It's just like even a sense, like a sense of my gender is different is like a form of dysphoria. I believe. I think that's how they describe things. I feel like that makes sense to me. I know that there are other trans people who have an issue with the idea of like dysphoria altogether. I think that's Philosophy Tube made a video talking about gender dysphoria, and they're like, gender dysphoria doesn't exist. And it was a whole dramatic thing in the trans community. I feel like I'm like late to the gender related conversation game. Like a lot of this stuff happened like years ago, when I was like first discovering myself and things like that. But yeah, I was pretty close to kind of being more on like the haha, let's kind of make fun of, you know, cat gender people. And I'm kind of like, you know what does that make me any different than the offensive tranny who's making a bunch of videos about me and like, you know, teasing my identity? You know, does that make me any different? We just kind of are picking on people down the line. That's what it reminds me of. Like the people who don't have any power, clinging onto any power that they can to hurt the people below us, or perceived, you know, who have less social clout, maybe. Yeah. So JJ grew up during 9/11 and they politicized my identity then. And so this stuff with gender politics reminds me of that. I think we just exist and it shouldn't be much of a big deal to cis folks, but meh. I think the punching down. Okay, sorry about that. Oh yeah, we shouldn't be punching down at all. It's frustrating. It's frustrating that sometimes we feel the need to do that. Sometimes like I would feel better doing that, because it would make me feel more secure in my non-binary identity. I'm a real non-binary. You know what I mean? I have dysphoria. I have bad gender dysphoria. I need medical treatment. So I get to be the voice, you know, for the trans people in the community. And I just don't think that that's true. Because the logical end of all of this gender teasing, all of this, you know, man, I just can't. I don't want to be associated with the trans community. Oh, there's too much of this. What that leads to is more pain and more like teasing and more what's that called? Not necessarily isolation. More of a disconnect with like what we're actually trying to do here in terms of like talking about why we need treatment, why it's important for people, why it's important for people to talk about these things, and why it's okay to just talk about stuff, and people should be free to share their opinions about their gender without being harassed and policed. It sucks so bad. I just get so frustrated because I think people should be allowed to just say, oh, my gender feels like this, and that's the way that they want to express themselves. Like why can't people just do that and be allowed to do that? That's frustrating. Okay. Hey Dragon. Okay, console. I don't know what console you're talking about, but I'm glad that it went well for you. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk a little bit about, why is it political? I really don't know. Okay. Guys, I'm nervous. Okay, I'll talk about this other. Okay, the other thing that really quick. Okay, another thing that I wanted to quickly talk about is at the end of the video, the other trans guy, he mentions that he feels like the trans community has shifted for the worse, and it's become very kind of intense about like identity politics and stuff like that. And he community for to find resources and stuff as he was beginning his transition. And I would agree with that. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm not super involved in a lot of like circles. And a lot of that is because I think there's a lot of just like chatter about like, is this my gender? And like, what is that? And I think that's fine. There are places where that's important to have like that conversation. But I think for me as a trans person, like what I need from community is like to talk about other things, like how to take care of myself as a trans person, like scar care, what to expect, you know, down the line with testosterone and things like that. Like, that's what's important about the trans community, is kind of being there to support each other. And I think that we might have lost sight of that. And I think there's also parts of us that have lost sight of that because of this other the other stuff where people are maybe picking genders that you don't necessarily agree with, and then we can kind of get caught up in the noise there. So Charlie says that I can envision a world where gender isn't dividing us. In that place, you can express your gender as it seems to you and not have the fear and shame that we currently live with. A dysphoria-free world. I would really love that. And I think when we're talking about trans issues, right? You said, I don't know if that'll ever happen. I think it's hard especially for me to see that now. But imagining a world where a person can like even say like, I would like my body to be like this, and I'm comfortable with that. And it's not necessarily out of this place, this violent hatred towards yourself. It's like a deep knowing, like a sense of confidence within yourself that like, this is the body that you'd like to have. Does that always have to be a decision made based off of dysphoria? I'm not sure if it's always useful to wait for that agony. Not saying, I don't know. Yeah. There's a lot of things. Maybe if a person doesn't have any discomfort, they'll never have pain in terms of like transition, or they'll never have dysphoria. But that we don't know that necessarily. The levels of dysphoria for a person, I think, can change and vacillate. Yeah, scar in healthcare. Yeah, for us who are PIPOC, yeah, the intersectionalism is beautiful, and we need to enjoy the community. Like things that are important, like pink nipples. For those of you who are brown and have brown nipples, like mine are half pink, and that was something that I had to learn from the community. And I'm grateful that there were other people of color who taught me that and knew what to expect. And so now, like, I'm gonna pursue nipple tattooing eventually. And so now I know that that's an option, and I know that I can pursue that and kind of like help deal with this. I do have like some discomfort with the way that they look. Like I don't really like that they're pink. I don't know if I necessarily would call that like gender. I don't know if it's related to a gender part of my body, if it's immediately gender dysphoria, or this is just kind of like, I would like to have my nipples be the same color. Like, I don't know if that would count as dysphoria. Let me know in the comments. Is being uncomfortable with pink nipples dysphoria, or is that just like kind of discomfort? I'm not sure. I definitely think my scars, I have scar dysphoria. That feels more gender related. But it's getting better. It's better than it was like a couple months after the surgery. So that's good. So speaking of dysphoria, let's talk about Marcus, who made a video about me, because I made a video about him. I was kind of waiting for this to happen. I felt like a YouTube celebrity for a hot second. I'm joking, you know. But I had a person make a video about me, and I clicked on a thing and I see my face on someone's thumbnail, and like, it's a scary thing. And he has a much larger community than me, much larger. And so his video got, I don't even know, let me see what, almost 50,000 views. So it's great. It's great that someone talked about me in a really positive way in front of so many people. Obviously I'm joking and it was mean, and but let's watch it together. We're not gonna watch the whole thing. We're gonna watch a little bit of it. Trigger warning. It's, lots of not kind things that he's gonna say. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll talk about that other scar comment after this video. Guys. All right. I think I sped this up already. No, I didn't. Because I don't want to spend any more time talking about this guy than I have to. Okay.
My content.
Look at that. Sorry. Delusional haters. I'm just so mad. It makes me so annoyed. I'm so annoyed, and I hate that I'm annoyed, but it's part of the feeling. I have this issue with people doing this thing where it's non-binary ideology a chance. And so like, I'm a person, like, I'm not an ideology. I'm an entire human being, right? Like, non-binary is a part of that. See, I agree. I'm going to say, like, I stand by that comment 100%. Let's see if he has a
This is where you have to remember the first thing that she said.
And he misgendered me the whole time, which fucking sucks. It makes me so fucking mad that a person can make a video talking about his dysphoria. And I talked about his dysphoria, and I was like, yeah, his experience of dysphoria is like this. And you know what? I actually have a really similar experience of dysphoria. And he misgenders me. Like, that feels fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like that just is unkind. I did not misgender him. I supported him. You know what I'm saying? I won't say that I wasn't unkind at all, because I probably was, and I'm not necessarily mad about that, because he was more unkind to me than I was to him. But yeah, the misgendering was not kind, and it sucks that he did that in front of so many people. Yeah,
that I'm just another type of Blair White and Ariel or something.
I said that earlier in the video. He has that type of energy.
Like I'm not a person, individual. Huh? How cool.
I didn't say that you were the same. I said you had the same energy.
But it's so typical that these types of people only get ended when it directly affects them.
No. Did you see the video? I wasn't even standing up for myself. I was standing up for other people. Well, technically it was non-binary people, so it was myself. And I get offended about other things as well. But
so they can be as offensive as they want, as offended, everything's fine.
Was that him correctly gendering me, or was that him just talking about people generally? Because I don't think that must have been an accident.
No one is saying that you're not a human being. No one is saying that you're an individual. See, if you believe in non-binary, if you have more than 2 genders, that's an opinion. An opinion. If you believe that...
I'm so annoyed. I'm so annoyed. Because it's not like they're literally, I know, like I understand that there is science that does support this. Oh, for example, like I learned more about the science that kind of like does help support like non-binary people from like Godless Snowshoe. So even though we have, I don't know if I'm landing in the same place as them, some of the resources that they provided were useful to me.
The grass is full and not green. Opinion, not a fact. Whatever you want, even whatever you want.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to talk about him later.
But here's the thing. You believe instead of acknowledging reality, okay?
And also being non-binary is not the same as believing that the grass is green. It's so offensive. This is actually, I mean, he's right. You know, he's being offensive right now because he's saying that like, it's only because of a feeling that I'm like this. No, I'm dysphoric. Therefore, I'm making a decision to like, go through a really uncomfortable process of changing my body in order to like alleviate gender dysphoria. Thank you for completely ignoring that and misrepresenting me.
There's the difference. If you as a biological woman, I'm talking about this woman, if you as a biological woman cannot be a woman, your opinions on gender stereotypes, that's on you.
And that's offensive to me because I am like, I'm not that type of like,
Not be a woman because of on.
Oh yeah, he's like one of those people that non-binary. It seems that there are people who believe that non-binary is only this like political subversive thing. Like I don't want to be assigned to what a female is. Therefore, I want to be non-binary. That's not what's happening here. Yeah, this is awful. Ooh. Yeah, JJ would have. Yeah, JJ would have so many dollars that they'd be able to afford all their surgeries that they need. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I don't know. I do think that transphobia can help you feel more comfortable about yourself. And that's kind of twisted. But like I said, this is the logical conclusion of gender critical ideology is like teasing other trans people. And that's pretty much it. So that sucks. Let me see.
Gender stereotypes, that's on you. Your opinion, middle of them, instead of just a little bit, it's fact. It's the fact that there isn't any room for women to be different, that there isn't room for men to be different, whatever that means. Non-binary is a part of woke ideology because it's based in rejecting reality. It's based in rejecting science and biology.
Yeah, not at all. Like, yeah, gender dysphoria is, I mean, technically probably is a biological phenomenon. Maybe it's caused by like some, I don't know, chemical stuff. Who knows what gender dysphoria is exactly. But yeah, so it's not, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, guys. This, like, he's equating like people's lived experiences of gender dysphoria as an ideology. He's claiming that like I just want to be not quote unquote not like other girls when like like gender dysphoria is a part of like my experience. It's so frustrating. Yeah, and exactly, punching down doesn't save you, and that's what the TERFs and transphobic binary folks fail to admit to themselves. It doesn't help anybody. And the point of this video is I'm going to show you, this is what I'm doing. I'm going progressively more and more intense in the rhetoric, because I'm going to show you where this all leads, guys. It's not pretty. So pretty much trigger warning for violent transphobia for the rest of this video, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, you can tell that he didn't watch my video. What I'm guessing is that he had like an editor or something find me on he probably searched for his name on the internet, found that I made a video about him, found those 2 clips, and then made it and didn't watch my video.
Societal norms, their own norms, integrate into society.
When I hear like, yes, we do want new norms to be integrated into society, and that should not be a bad thing. Do you know what other laws were imposed onto society? Things like forcing businesses. Oh, poor businesses that have to make their buildings accessible to people in wheelchairs. Oh no, you're forcing your opinion on us. Oh no, we have to desegregate our schools and allow Black people to come into our schools. You're forcing your opinion onto us. I'm so oppressed. I don't buy it. Before, I used to buy it. I used to be like, oh, maybe we are pushing ourselves on society. No, I'm done with that. I'm done with that now, because it's okay for us to take up space. It's okay for you to take up space. Take up space. Be a person. Say I deserve a right to be here. And if people don't want to do that, then that's fine, right? People do have a right to completely deny respect to us. And that's upsetting, right? It's upsetting and annoying, but that doesn't mean that we get to stop. We should stop standing up for people, even the trans people who we don't necessarily agree with. Even if we feel like using xenogenders or neopronouns harms other trans people, like, oh, that's distracting people from the real problem. That's not the issue here. The issue here is we have violent transphobia raging in our community that's being very well accepted by people, so much that trans people are like, man, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed of other trans. I don't want to be associated with. I don't want to be made fun of. I don't want to end up on libs of TikTok. You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion. That's my perspective. I could be wrong. Whatever. The gay ideology, the homosexual ideology, like it seems like a dog whistle for conservative or for conservative family ideology, non-binary ideology, trans ideology. There are trans people. There are people about our experiences. It's weird because it's like, I don't know, like other things that categorized like that.
Okay, if you still don't understand why people call it an ideology, let me make something very clear. You're a woman on testosterone. You're a masculine woman, but you're not non-binary. The first thing I mentioned.
Can I just tell you that like I posted that picture on Instagram on trans invisibility, and I haven't posted like any type of like trans picture because it just really made me really pretty dysphoric to like have people like see that, I guess. And then I was like feeling kind of okay, and I chose a little bit of a tip. It is kind of funny that there's a smaller box of me anyway, but because I was like, okay, let me try to make this dramatic. So like I chose a bit a picture with like where I was showing lots of titty so that it would look really different. And I think that also plays into my dysphoria. I feel like my face hasn't changed enough on testosterone, and like I still look like a girl. Like this triggered a lot of dysphoria for me. But I'm watching it again because I don't know. I have therapy on Tuesday, so I'm fine. No, guys, this sucks. It really does stink. Yeah, because whatever he's gonna say, it's gonna be wrong generally. But I'm almost
a fact. The second thing I mentioned is something you believe you are. Two different things. In my case, I'm a gender dysphoric person. I'm a biological woman, and I testosterone. I got some surgery, so I look like a man in society. Those are.
Do you literally hear what he said? I literally say, like, except for the and part of living like a man in society. Like, I'm a gender dysphoric. Like, look,
believe you are. I'm testosterone. It's a little bit different in my case. Person.
Same.
I'm a biological woman.
Same.
And I'm on testosterone.
Same.
I got some surgery, so I look.
Same.
Like a man in society.
Kind of same, like a little bit. Like my end goal is kind of like androgynous, like masculine looking type of person. That doesn't necessarily reflect my gender exactly, but like that's how my gender expression is like that. So you know what So I'm offended. You know what I'm saying? I'm offended, not necessarily because like the misgendering doesn't really bother. Like it bothers me because it's misgendering and it brings up feelings in my body. But what I'm angry about is misrepresenting me as an individual and saying things like I make sense because I have dysphoria, when I also have gender dysphoria as well. You don't get to just hoard all the dysphoria points.
Those are facts, and what I claim to be is what I just said. So there's no difference. I believe there are many ways to be a man or a woman.
You saw this Reddit post was really funny. So POV, I run the YouTube channel, The Offensive Tranny, and basically saying like
Feminine trans men, woman, female, she. I'm the only valid trans in the world. Well, I'm glad that you understand. Just kidding. This is someone who thinks it's hypocritical when I talk about how there's a million ways to be a man, but I cannot accept that a trans man is wearing makeup, shows off his big boobs with long hair.
You can't.
You claim to be a man. It doesn't make sense. The majority of all people will never, ever understand. The difference between a regular man and a trans man is gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is a mental disorder that takes away a person's freedom to express themselves however they want. It's kind of the whole point of a person transitioning to the opposite sex. Of course, I'm not the only transsexual person in the world. However, I'm very confident not everyone share my experience. Not a lot of people are trans. So what's the problem? I think it's a very good thing, actually. It's quite a difficult life.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult life. Yes, very much the whole just the whole mental disorder situation. Like I think that I guess the language that I use that I feel like is better is like it's a situation, like a condition type of a thing, maybe. Because it does, I don't know if like there are things that are not conditions that need to be treated. I don't know how to like make sense of all of this stuff. I'm still figuring out how I want, yeah. But yeah, that made me annoyed. There's so many things I could say to him, but it's just all of it is stupid and ridiculous. It's mostly because like it's people like him and people like Blair White. I think that those are two, I would say, like trans man and a trans woman who both hold similar ideas. I'm not saying that you're the same person, so if you need me to specify, you're not the same person for sure. Similar ideas. And what you're saying is I have to look like this XYZ so that I'm accepted in society. And if you look different than that, you're not a trans person. You don't get to be valid. You don't get to say you're X, Y, or Z. That just doesn't work. Like then, okay. Because when you say things like this, you know what you're actually doing? Like you're making it for people. These people will say things like, oh, I'm worried about the kids. I'm worried about the, transing the kids. I would say that sometimes people like this are more risk of transing the kids because if you say things like, oh, being a man means you wear this and you don't wear makeup or you don't wear dresses, then the little boy who wants to wear makeup and dresses is immediately trans. Then you know what I mean? Then it doesn't quite work. So if and I think that what his perspective is that gender dysphoria makes it impossible for him to do anything feminine. And that's his expression of gender dysphoria. And that is so valid for you. My gender dysphoria is different, right? I have gender dysphoria on both. It seems like I'm on both extremes, right? Either if I'm too masculine, I feel gender dysphoria. If I feel too feminine, I get gender dysphoria. So it's like, this is where there's the most comfort. Like, you know what I'm saying? It just, you know what I'm saying, guys? Interesting. It must suck only living for society. Wow. Ooh, I like that point because, yeah, my transition isn't about me fitting into society. My transition is about like me like cultivating a space, like literally this body, which is a space that I feel comfortable in. And that's pretty much it. Oh, cool. Yeah. It's a very very non-binary experience, I guess. Yeah. But because there are non-binary people who like are super comfortable on like the full male appearing spectrum of things, and I did kind of try to lean there a little bit and grow my facial hair, and mostly what that meant is like growing my facial hair a little bit out longer, but that started to get kind of weird and made me a little bit uncomfortable. But now it's like at this weird because whenever I shave completely, I feel like kind of uncomfortable for the first little bit. So it's growing back, so it's a little bit better. And thank you thank you also, because someone complimented my jawline, and like that makes me feel so good because like I also have been like working on my jawline specifically. If you don't know about mewing, it's this kind of technique where you like push your tongue on the roof of your mouth. It's like supposed to be really good for like breathing and stuff like that, but it also can like help your face and your jawline become more what's that called? Angled and defined and stuff like that. So I appreciate that comment because I've been working on it. Because that for me, sorry, there's the dogs if you can hear them. Having my jawline feel like sharp is gender affirming for me. So like I am working hard, like every day I'm mewing, you know what I'm saying? Like even things like chewing gum, like a lot of gum can help build up sorry about the door, can help build up the jaw muscles and stuff like that and help kind of create a more angular face. That feels affirming to me. So I'm working in that direction. You know what I'm saying? Like gender dysphoria impacts my day-to-day life, and I'm working pretty much, not necessarily, it doesn't feel like I'm constantly working at fighting gender dysphoria, but it's like, it's a thing that I think about. When I work out, like I might spend a little bit more time on my chest than other parts of my body because I have a lot of discomfort around my chest. And I would say more of like, that's more of a body dysmorphia type of situation, not necessarily gender dysphoria. It feels comfortable being flat, but I feel like I like more muscle. I feel kind of not muscular, and that makes me feel like I'm too small, and that doesn't make me feel good. So I work on that, and that is good for me. I think that people should have the right to make their bodies look the way that they feel most comfortable in a healthy range, I would say. Because I think like there are dangers for weight if it gets out of control, and I think both directions, both of them can be unhealthy. I know this because I worked with eating disorders for several years, and I worked with people on both ends of the spectrum. So yeah. Okay, but basically I wanted to say it's just generally super uncomfortable to do this. I think we're both trans. The other thing that I spent a lot of time today also just like watching people talk about like Calvin Gara, and I know that he's another experience of a trans person who is not necessarily the kindest to other trans people, but not all trans people are like Marcus, and that's good. But it seems like maybe more and more of them are leaning more and more towards that line. And I think like what you said, Dragon said, like you're just kind of working to assimilate more than standing on your own. Like I'm not necessarily like, yes, I'm a part of this society. I'm a part of the human race, and that's, but I don't necessarily have to like be accepted by society to like live a functional life, I guess. Yeah, maybe it would definitely make other people like me. But then we run the risk of kind of having a situation where we're dealing with, oh, well, I like trans people like you. I like trans people like you and like Blair White. But the other trans people, no, they're a little bit they're too much for me. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny. Okay. So what next? We're going to talk about the extremes. I'll say that Marcus is, still would stand for another say that trans people, he probably wouldn't say trans men are men. He would say trans men are women with a male experience. Like that would be his like cheer. That means that's like such an obnoxious thing. Model minority recycled BS. Exactly. Ooh, I love you guys. You guys are awesome. You guys make these conversations so much deeper. And then you also mentioned the idea of, you're like, I'm not seeing any Black anti-transphobic folks like this. I'm not going to say that the transphobic people don't exist. I absolutely believe that they do exist. I watched a video about this Black pastor talk about how he hates homophobia and how it's literally like he believes it's like a whole agenda that we like infiltrated the mental health community to like force them to change gay from being like a mental health issue. It's crazy. People literally believe the craziest things. But definitely, maybe there might be some white supremacy stuff going on here. I think JJ was saying maybe these takes are based in white supremacy, always boxing in folks with strict labels, etc. There's no need to watch this shit, by the way. People think the earth is flat too. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I'm or maybe I just like to feel angry. I don't know. I don't really think that's it. I definitely, I like to know things, and I like to know what people believe, and I like to figure out why they believe what they believe. Sometimes I understand, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I make assumptions that are wrong, and sometimes I feel like I'm on the money. But we're gonna we're gonna just watch a very short clip of this person, Isaac Uncooked. And it's, you know, trigger warning for the video. It's just, you know, usual transphobic stuff. Here it goes. And then I might even speed this up because it's only a couple seconds I'm going to show.
Hey everyone, I'm here on the Offensive Tea channel. You may know this channel. It's actually more popular than mine because people like Delusion, I guess. She is...
So you can tell, like, so even though this person, Marcus, thinks like I'm the logical one, I'm gonna go let my dog in. Okay, buddy, come on. Okay. All right. So he thinks like, you know, I'm the kind of trans person that people like. I'm the kind of trans person that is like acceptable. But that's not the truth. See, you can see that here. Raja's joining for a little bit until he gets annoyed.
I think she's named herself Marcus. Here she is with Buck Angel. So 2 women. And it says here, get ready for tomorrow's video because this iconic man is in it. Not sure about the iconic part. Not sure about the man part. All I see are 2 women. Maybe it's the second picture here. No, it's the same picture, basically. Just 2 women. It's weird.
So pretty much that for the whole time. And then him just like going into the comments and being like, this is actually a woman and not a man. So like, this is where it ends. This is where it goes. Okay. The person who made this channel is a detransitioner. And I guess that this would be one of those examples of like what happens when people like are super negative and things like that. 1 second. Wait, I don't know why this thing isn't working. Okay, there it goes. Yeah, if this is toxic to you and your psyche, we all know these phones suck and are petty. Yeah, I don't like these people. I know phobes. Yeah, like I'm in a much better place, like to talk about these issues. I've wanted to talk about this stuff for quite a long time, but like was not like in the mental headspace to do it. And I think a lot of my dysphoria probably just like kept me from feeling confident enough from sharing my videos and my perspective online. I got pretty nervous about it. But I feel better about myself now. I feel more confident generally and more secure in myself. If a phobe is going to say something about me, I feel much more comfortable kind of talking, like just knowing that they're being completely ridiculous and I don't really have to agree with them at all. The last thing that I wanted to do is talk about Buck Angel. So Buck Angel is a pretty famous trans man. And he is, you know, kind of like another one who I think is, who let's say like Blair White would respect Buck Angel as a trans man. You know, he is very open about his like his past as a woman, you know, and as him as a female and things like that. I think his Instagram bio is like a man with a female past or something like that, which is fine. Like, and it is true. my like female identity or my female body, like I guess because that's, you know, whatever, like or being raised female or whatever has impacted my life in a certain way. And so that is, yeah, I think an important experience to acknowledge. But, you know, also I think he's just being like, just doing the whole like conservative trans thing. I don't even know if conservative is the right word, because I would not think that Buck is conservative by any means. He's a porn star, so he's not a conservative person. He's just like more of a trans medicalist. There you go. Oh, I don't see BIPOC transphobic trans folks. Okay, for sure. I don't think I do either. Like I haven't found a channel where that happens. So, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's, there are small channels. Maybe it's the algorithm only showing me the white people. But there are Black trans people who are being mean to other trans people. I don't know. Libertarian conservative. Okay. Okay. I think I understand that. But yeah, so with Buck Angel, he's a pretty prominent trans man. Even though I don't agree with a lot of his ideas, I feel like a sort of like maybe kinship with Buck as like someone who like has been kind of the forefront of trans men and trans rights for a long time. I would probably say, like, I don't really know all the details, but I would probably say that like he probably helped assist the trans community quite a bit, and he does try to help trans men with like creating like healthy sex toys and stuff like that, talking about how to take care of yourself as a trans man. And I think that's really important. I think talking about the medical part of being a trans person, the stuff that's dysphoria inducing and things like that is really important. If we don't talk about these things, then we can be yeah, I don't know exactly where I was going with that sentence. I lost it, but whatever. Okay. So we're going to watch this last thing. There's 3 different clips that I just wanted to play from this one video. None of this is Isaac actually talking. It's just Isaac showing a video where he's apparently trying, it seems like he's just playing the video, trying to frame Buck as like a creep or a pervert or something like that. But when I was watching it, I was like, this is actually interesting to hear some of Buck's perspective that I hadn't really heard of before. Maybe his perspective has changed. A lot of them were really, really old videos. But I don't know. I don't know. Just, you'll see what I mean when we watch it. Okay. Oh crap.
That's not fair to do that. So it went out to him that, I would love to have a conversation with him, and I think it would be very powerful. So, oh hey Isaac, thanks for showing up. So here's Isaac. That's great. Yeah, you're allowed. Okay, it's cool though, dude. He said, I'm being honest. You're one, and I'm making a video. You're influencing many young people. Right on, my friend.
Like, did you see like his face? Like, he's like, bummer. Like, I just didn't. He's like, darn it. Like, this person isn't gendering me correctly. Like that frustration in his face.
I think I'll make a video about you, and then now we can cause all this drama. In fact, I won't make a video about you because it's not worth my time. But you're more than welcome to make as many videos as you want about me. Make sure you tag me and make sure you spell my name right so that more people can find me, because that's all I really care about, my friend. You're just going to help me raise my channel. So it's cool with me. But that being said, I see what you're doing. You're not even being a respectful person. You're kind of being gross. But I am a biological female. I'm not a woman. I'm an actual biological female who decided to transition. It didn't work out for you, Isaac, and that's a bummer. But I can see.
So that's the other thing. It's like a lot of these people, when transition doesn't work for them, they kind of are like, it's really dangerous for everybody. And they just show like all of the risks of these things and like none of the benefits. And I think either perspective is harmful. Only showing the benefits of transition or only showing the negatives. A nuanced approach is best. And there's only a couple more seconds that I wanted to watch of this.
See the hate. And that's what this whole thing was about. And you just actually 100% proved my point, which is why I think that's so beautiful. But I myself will send you a ton of love, my friend. I hope that you get over your hurt one day, and I hope that you see what you're doing can only cause more pain and more hurt for many people. And I wish to God you would listen to what I'm saying, because you actually listen to me instead of doing that kind of stuff. Because right there, Isaac.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what he was gonna say. Like, and I feel like he might say that they might like have some points where they agree, and they probably do. Like, so yeah. So when you just say like a woman is an adult human female, then like it gives people the right to just like kind of step all over our beliefs and things like that. And that is unhelpful, I think. So that's dangerous. But the reason why I'm showing this is because like, this is what happens. Like you saw how Marcus was disrespected, deeply disrespected by this other gender critical person. So he thinks that he's like trying to pander to these people who are actually going to be accepting. And yeah, I'm sure that there are people in his community who are very accepting, and I'm actually glad for that. It's good to have people who become less transphobic than they were originally. It's not perfect, but maybe it's better, whatever. But yeah, it also happens to Buck too. Like he's also probably pretty, you know, restrictive or transmedical in his perspective, but he is upset that someone is not speaking about him truthfully and calling him a woman when that is not accurate. It's just frustrating. And okay, the other thing that I wanted to show is a video of Buck just like standing for human right, for trans rights, like, and for trans kids, which I was surprised to see because I don't think he would say this kind of stuff now, but I don't know. It was nice to see it. So let's see what he has to say.
But it seems like people want to hear more about what I got going on. So I've been really working on my message of empowerment, which is really, really, really important to me, and important for me to get that out to you guys. And that I've noticed really that many people have been really listening to that. And you know, I have kids, like 14-year-old kids, writing me and telling me like they're from town in Kentucky. Nobody understands them. And picture, I don't know how a 14-year-old is in my picture, but I don't ask them that. I'm okay with who I am now. Since a message to this little kid, 14, you know, can feel this way. These people, you know, wanting to beat him up at school because he dresses like a boy and he's a girl and he feels like a boy and nobody understands that, you know, and every day his parents are.
It's so crazy to see Buck being like, yeah, like these young kids who know that they're trans, like, and are feeling dysphoric and like are getting bullied, and he's like standing up for them and saying like, yeah, this is a problem. And it's good for young trans kids to see trans adults being alive. But it's almost as if, because these people start platforming detransitioners and like, they just like seem to be picking up this rhetoric that doesn't seem very helpful. And they seem to be kind of like being more anti-trans and is useful. I don't know, just maybe the message is, I don't know if that means that his message is shifting. I just think that it's like less helpful nowadays. But yeah, I like this version of Buck, you know, that him like standing up for these young trans kids, you know, who are messaging him and being like, you know, like, you're an inspiration to me and like that, because that's a great feeling.
Like, if you would stop dressing like that, maybe you would get a boyfriend. You don't get a boyfriend, and you know, just continually harass this kid. And he says that he looks at my picture and he says to himself, what would Buck Angel do? I just feel to myself, wow, I mean, that has made my work that much more powerful for me. And it, you know, it's like, maybe, I don't know if I saved this kid's life. Maybe I did. Nobody can tell us we're not men or we're not women. We are. And fuck you if you don't fucking like it. It's just the fucking way it is.
Like, you see, this is like, he said, we are men, right? And trans women are women, right? This is him like proclaiming exactly the message that the world needs to hear. And it's unfortunate that he seems to like maybe not be that open about saying the same things nowadays, maybe a little bit more conservative in the way that he's speaking. But yeah, it's frustrating to see. It's like, it's inspiring and frustrating at the same time. I just like, it's weird. It's a weird, trippy thing to see. It kind of goes to show you how powerful the media has been in really influencing the way that people are viewing themselves and viewing other trans people. All right, so this is the last clip of his that I wanted to watch.
I'm a real believer of learning a community will stronger community, more powerful community. Kids, I love you, kids. Talk to you soon. Kids, don't forget to.
So I think that so in this video, I think that he's trying to like make Buck seem like creepy for mentioning like sex and stuff like that. But I think that it kind of goes along with like the whole, like, he's the trans dad, tranpop, being like to the kids, to the trans kids and stuff like that. Or even the young trans people. Maybe that's like what he was going for. But I could, people will be like, oh no, now you're being since you said kids and you're talking about sex, now you're being a creep.
Clean, your foreskin. And don't forget, you can ask me anything. Give me some questions, give me some topics, give me some things that you might want to discuss. Okay, kids? So that's it for today. Let's move on. I hope you love this. Please like it. Please follow me. Please spread the word.
And then he goes, and then the rest of the video is him just being ridiculous and making fun of Buck. So we're gonna stop there because I don't really, I did a little bit of platforming of him just being hateful, but I don't want to do too much of that today. Do I have problems with Buck Angel? Absolutely, I do. But do I think that this is right? Definitely not. This is not it's not right to do that. The issue here is that one of the biggest issues here is that he's making, this normal trans man who's just living his life as a trans man seem like a creep. It is important for trans men to learn how to clean their bottom growth. That is a real thing that trans men need to know. Trans men and individuals who are on testosterone, who are AFAB people who are on testosterone, you need to learn how to deal with your bottom growth because it's important to take care of that part of your body. So it's helpful that trans adults, grown up trans people are telling us about how to take care of our bodies and helping us, even because, for example, some of us don't have parents who are willing to help us with those things. So we have another person who's willing to help us, which is, I think, really great. One of the things that I also wanted to just share in terms of more of the rhetoric that I'm talking about here. And I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger on my end so you guys can see more. Okay, all right. So what I just wanted to do is try to, I just was gonna show you, for example, I was looking this stuff up earlier. But when you just research Jeffrey Marsh, who is a non-binary TikToker, I think that's their biggest platform, really kind, seeming and sweet and gentle person, really kind of plays a lot into the inner child situation, kind of speaking kindly to your younger self. So you see, there is, and this is, just their platform. And then a couple, there's 2 very neutral videos or positive videos from them. And then after that, it is just all, except for these ones are fine. I think these are just theirs, but almost all of this stuff is he's being a creep, he's a groomer. A lot of the, the groomer, take they're wanting to kind of talk to your children in private and creepy stuff like that. And this is Marcus again, which is funny, making fun of other people who just use neopronouns, seemingly making fun of people who just want people to know that they're trans, which is weird. You know what I'm saying? It's this is where this logically ends. And I was gonna also just look up xenogenders and stuff like that. And it's just more of the same thing. This is the logical end of this type of rhetoric. It doesn't equal more support for trans people. It equals more, not necessarily isolation. It just leads to more issues and problems in our community for us. All we should be wanting to do, is to stand up for our rights so that we can just do the things that we want to do in peace and hopefully no one is messing with us. But it seems that is way too complicated for the world, and we just can't seem to just live our lives on our own. We're asking too much of the world for asking for decency and respect, and they're over it. The world is over it. I don't think that the answer is to just kind of ignore what's going on and just say, well, I'm just not going to be part of the trans community anymore. That doesn't do anything. What does something is putting effort into educating people about the fact that there are smoke and mirrors going on here. What are our actual goals? What are our actual goals here, as a trans community? And we want to be liberated. We want to make sure that other people have a voice, and that we're listening to all the trans people. One of my opinions and my beliefs is that if we make sure that the least of these are taken care of, it's like a biblical term. But the least of these, the people who are kind of the most disenfranchised and things like that, if they're taken care of, then everyone probably will be okay. If the people who don't have anything have enough to make sure that they're taken care of, that probably means that the 1% is probably still just fine. There are better ways to create equality in this world. And at the end of the day, I'm not just supporting trans rights. I'm also supporting human rights as a whole. I'm supporting bodily autonomy. I'm supporting the right for people to say who they are. You know what I'm saying? And also to do what they want with their body. Those things are pretty basic. You're right, Charlie. This is just basic kindness, what we're looking for, and that is even seeming really hard to come by. Now it just seems like, because people are awful, and these right-wing talking points are getting more popular, people are believing that all trans people are delusional. The individuals who say like it's the xenogender or the neo-pronoun users who are causing this problem, I think that you are mistaken. I don't think that they are the cause of this problem. Did they contribute? Maybe. Perhaps. It's easier, for example, to make fun of someone who is like bunny gender than it is for someone who's like a buck angel, who looks very much like a man. It'd be hard to say you belong in the woman's bathroom with his like bulging veins and bald head and big huge beard. It'd be very hard to say you belong in a women's bathroom. But yeah, this is what we're fighting for. Yeah, there are other ways to kind of support human rights. Maybe it is also doing work off of the internet, talking to people in your communities, connecting with other human beings, connecting with other queer and trans people in real life. I think a lot of people might have different views than you expect. And when you actually talk to people, you realize that a lot of people have differing views, and you might actually get along with people who you don't agree with 100%. I'm learning that as I'm growing up, and I'm connecting with people who don't have the same beliefs as me, but I'm learning from them in actually quite powerful ways that are really supportive in my life. People who I don't necessarily wouldn't like go have drinks with, or necessarily like enjoy like casual hanging out time with. But yeah, conversations and stuff like that with people who have different opinions than me have been some of them have been helpful and eye-opening. And some of them are not, and they're boring and useless. My last thought that I wanted to end on is the idea of building bridges. Is it even worth it to work on connecting with people who are trans but aren't, maybe they're more technically the binary trans people? Is it worth it at all to try and build bridges there? Will it just end in people, I don't know, being more frustrated? Like I wonder in my head, like, what would it do if, someone like Marcus, like really, came face to face with the fact that I like dealt with dysphoria, like in my experience, and, had to talk to someone and be like, yeah, it's harder to disagree with someone's experience in person than it is through a camera, for sure. I'm saying that because, I would be scared. I'm very timid. I tend to be a timid person, so I would be very scared to say a lot of this stuff to people's faces. I'm not ashamed to admit that, because I like to be honest about my fears and opinions and stuff like that on here. But yeah, I'm not sure what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. Is it worth it to try to build bridges? Is building bridges? I don't think that building bridges with the gender criticals, I'm not sure if it's helpful. They don't seem to like us very much. Some of them do, kind of, but it's kind of confusing. Another time I definitely want to talk about like trans medicalism itself, and maybe watch some of Godless Snowshoe's videos with you all, and just share some different opinions. Yeah, I just think that, I think it's important to know what people are saying, the different things that are out there, and what it looks like to look at things rationally, maybe, and try to weigh both sides. I don't know. I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Yeah, this was interesting to do. but important to talk about. Yeah, hopefully I don't get a ton more videos that are made about me, but at the same time, you know, maybe that's how I become YouTube famous or something like that. Speaking of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel and you share this video with someone who you think would appreciate it. And make sure to also hit the bell notification so that you're aware when I'm going live. Even though it's around 1:30 every Sunday, it can change. It has changed in the before, and sometimes I take breaks. Follow me on Instagram at MadMagic. You can make sure to hear about what I'm doing. I will update things on Instagram a little bit more often than on YouTube. You know, as you know, sometimes I'm bad at remembering to check things and post stuff, but whatever. I'm glad this was helpful for some people. I hope that other people can find this useful and, you know, just even watch a chunk of this. Yeah, but I appreciate you all. Yeah, reach out. Let's have a conversation. You know, let's keep it going in the comments. Okay, appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your day. Peace and love. I hope you have a great week.